gentlemen, welcome on in to day 3, episode 3 of this fantastic football season, and the energy, the hype just keeps on rolling, and I really can't pull myself away from the excitement just yet because I'm ready for draft day already. I'm ready for it to be here. I'm patient. I want to make sure I have all my news, all my ducks in a row, make sure we know exactly what the rosters look like, maybe some last minute trades that occur before the season starts. But I am ever so anxious to get into tonight's show because we are doing quarterback draft or pass. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me. I, as always, am your host, Nathan Passwell, here on Fantasy Daily. Follow me on TikTok at Fantasy Daily Football. I actually have the live stream going right now. So everybody on TikTok following me right now, watching, we are filming tomorrow's episode. So if you guys follow me on TikTok, you might be able to check the live streams and catch all this info a day early before anybody else gets it, before I upload it to YouTube. So if you're all watching on YouTube, thank you for joining me. Like and subscribe, all that happy stuff. And welcome on into the draft or pass quarterback episode. So we are going to be talking about all the quarterbacks who are in kind of that sweet spot of ADP. And if you're buying into it or not. So formerly, this was the Undraftables episode, like I said in the previous 2 shows. If you guys haven't seen those, the running back draft or pass, the wide receiver draft or pass, those are on YouTube. Check those out as well. But we're going to go through basically the players who, we might not be willing to buy at that ADP. Wherever they are in draft, maybe they're a little bit too expensive, or maybe they're just the right price, or maybe they're a steal in the draft. We're going to cover some of those players tonight. Let's get into some quick points first. Now, obviously I am solo tonight. John has the night off, but me and John all night have been going back and forth, or all offseason going back and forth about Juju and the Chiefs, Kansas City wide receiver core and who it's going to be, and if you're just chasing the tail on it and whatnot. So just to kind of put it here, I wish John was here for this, but boom! Chiefs hype. Mecole Hardman and Patrick Mahomes on Instagram celebrating with the caption, "Business is booming." And this was a slide of pictures. Multiple pictures from practice, and Mecole Hardman was on the front of it. So just a little fun excitement and hype and whatnot. On a not so fun note, I probably should have checked this in my show doc. Tim Patrick has torn his ACL. So not the best segue for me to be hyped about Chiefs and then tear right into, that's not a great way to say that either. But Tim Patrick has a torn ACL, unfortunately ending his season, and he was actually going to be one of the people that we talked about on the Sleeper episode. I was very excited for Tim Patrick this year, and his value and how much he could bring to that team having Russell Wilson over there. So unfortunate, Tim Patrick is done for the season. Now obviously the automatic takes from that is it's just going to accelerate Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy quite a bit more, but I think it also accelerates the running game a bit more. So those 4 players, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, it's really just going to be the focal point of them this season that we're going to watch. Dalvin Cook also had an injury today. Do not trust the tabloids. It was just a finger injury. He will be fine. And the Dolphins have lost their first pick in 2023 and their 3rd pick in 2024 for tampering, reaching out to Tom Brady before the end of the season, which you are not allowed to do. And it's funny to see all the Dolphins news roll in, but the only thumbnail is Tom Brady. So every single picture that you see in your feed is Tom Brady, but it's talking about the Dolphins. Anyway, a little bit of quick points there, a little bit of news, because we have to get rolling right on into the quarterback portion of this show, and that is quarterback draft or pass. So I have 6 quarterbacks that I want to talk about with you guys tonight, and where they are going, if their draft price is worth it, and what we feel about them. So, Kyla Murray, he is currently going at ADP 60 in the 5th or 6th round. Now this is the spot where you start to see those tier 2 running backs really start to blow off the board. And this is the part in drafts, especially in home drafts, where I feel like a ton of people and a ton of players, when you're in drafts, you want to make sure that you have a quarterback who is in that tier. And that's the scary part of drafts, where you want to make sure you're grabbing it. So you're almost reaching up for quarterbacks when there is a ton of players left in that realm. So 6th round, 5th, 6th round, Me and John talked about the wide receivers a lot yesterday that are in that round, and basically every single person that we talked about that we would take in that round, I would much rather have, team structure-wise, than a quarterback where I could get close to the same value or fall off just a little bit later on the round. So let's talk about Kyla Murray a little bit. I do love Kyla Murray. I love his potential to absolutely be exactly who you pay for when you get to that round. Personally, for me, I'm going to wait a round or two, and I'm going to get somebody like Jalen Hurts, and I'm going to get the same exact production as Murray, if not more. So I'm a big fan of Jalen Hurts, but Russell Wilson himself, he could do the same thing. He could be 2, 3, 4 rounds later, and you're going to get either the same production or if not more, and you don't have to spend up for him. So if you're somebody who really wants that quarterback, one that you can trust and that you really want, me personally, I'm not going to reach up for him. I'm going to wait until the later round guys, and I'm not going to spend such a high draft capital on making sure that I have a player like that. So as much as you're going to get the exciting games, as much as you're going to get the upside, the rushing ability and whatnot, I'm not going to pay that price for anybody in that realm at all, especially 6th round where he is going. So moving on from Kyla Murray, because he is right in that sweet spot where it's difficult for me to want to grab anybody that's not a Kansas City or, a running back or a wide receiver. Anybody kind of in that sweet spot is going to be a huge addition to your team for the entire year. So, it's tough for me to take somebody there. All right, moving on to Aaron Rodgers at ADP 97 in the 9th round. Now, Aaron Rodgers, for me, you lose Davante Adams and you're going to lose a ton of confidence when it comes to fantasy football. Now, you have Allen Lazard who's been there. You have players who have been there, but you really don't know if you have the same consistency that you're going to have with Aaron Rodgers and his passing yards and all that stuff combined. I am really struggling to make a case for drafting Aaron Rodgers anywhere before the flyer rounds at the end. I really don't trust Aaron Rodgers whatsoever. He's going right next to Matt Stafford, Brandon Ayuk, Chris Olave, Rashad Penny. There's no way I can justify drafting somebody like Aaron Rodgers with all the question marks around him, everything that's really gone on with him in Green Bay in the last few years. I can't spend that kind of draft capital on somebody like Aaron Rodgers when I'm staring at such gold around me that's really going to bolster my team for the duration of the season. And Aaron Rodgers is going to give me that up and down performance like it's difficult. You cannot have somebody like Davante Adams leave your team and have anywhere near the same performance. So I'm really out on Aaron Rodgers. I think it's going to be an incredibly inconsistent year for Aaron Rodgers. I think Davante Adams propped him up quite a bit, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be hurting this year without him. So I'm basically completely out on Aaron Rodgers. I think the quarterback ranking of Aaron Rodgers at 6th overall is absolutely absurd. And I've been out on Rodgers as soon as Adams left. It looked murky beforehand, but me personally, I really can't jump into this. He's going to have his games. He's going to have his games when he goes off, but like we always say, we're chasing consistency, we're chasing fantasy points, and I need to stay in the realm of more than likely. So I can't take that risk with Aaron Rodgers. What do I do with my drink here? I need to get something in here. I don't want to bring Mountain Dew on the set, but I got no choice. I got this cotton mouth going on. All right, moving on. So, yeah, especially with Aaron Rodgers. All right, so just another piece to kind of cap off on the Aaron Rodgers argument. I believe that Green Bay is going to take a page out of Seattle's book and go extremely run heavy this year. I think you're going to see a lot of Aaron Jones, a lot of A.J. Dillon, and it's going to be a lot more of that than just letting Aaron Rodgers sling the ball. It's one of those things, too, where am I going to see the impact of anybody who's joined this team? Am I going to see the influence of Aaron Rodgers be Aaron Rodgers with these players? Is he going to bring something out of them, or is it just going to be the same old Aaron Rodgers doing what he thinks he wants to? And I err on the side of caution in thinking that Aaron Rodgers is just going to do what he wants to. So I don't think he's going to have crazy influence on these players. I think it's going to be an extremely down year, and I'm completely staying away at all costs on Aaron Rodgers. Now, moving on to one of my favorite acquisitions of the offseason, and probably the guy that I've been waiting to talk about more than anybody since the offseason acquisitions began. So One player in particular has really stuck out to me as an absolute game changer when it comes to where he was, where he's going, and what he can and probably will be. And ladies and gentlemen, that is quarterback Matt Ryan, now playing for the Indianapolis Colts, formerly for the porous, absolute garbage Atlanta Falcons, the offense who could not do anything, could not get out of their own way since Kyle Shanahan left. There was absolutely nothing Matt Ryan could do anymore on that team. It was just dissolving, and thank God Matt Ryan gets a chance to get out like Matt Stafford did. Now, I'm not saying Matt Ryan's going to go to the Super Bowl or anything like that, but Matt Ryan's going to the playoffs this year. That's going to happen. So let us take this trip down memory lane real quick and talk about Matt Ryan and his passing yards. So 2018, third most passing yards. 2019, fifth most passing yards. 2020, fourth most passing yards. Matt Ryan used to play in a dome. Now he's playing in a dome. He played with a crappy offensive line. Now he has the best offensive line. He had no running back. Now he has Jonathan Taylor. He had Julio at the back end of his career. Now he has Michael Pittman, Zach Pascal, Alec Pierce. Matt Ryan is completely surrounded by weapons, and the all points to beautiful, whatever you want to call it. Matt Ryan is in the perfect situation to go at a draft. Where is he going right now in draft? 174, which is the 15th round. The 15th round. For somebody, I'm staking my flag in the ground right now and saying that Matt Ryan is going to finish this season at least in the top 7 of quarterbacks, because Matt Ryan has the ability to throw the ball like crazy, and when he has somebody like Jonathan Taylor, he's going to return those numbers on passing yards. It's going to happen. And as long as the touchdowns come his way, which they should, Jonathan Taylor's going to steal a ton. But as long as the touchdowns go Matt Ryan's way and he's throwing 30 touchdowns, he's going to have a great, great season for fantasy football. He's going to be ultra consistent. Obviously, you're not going to have Josh Allen every single week, but he's going to have ultra consistency with massive upside weeks where he throws 3-4 touchdowns. So I am over the moon about Matt Ryan this year. I'm extremely excited to be drafting him basically in any draft that I can, especially for the draft price that he's going for. Round 15, he's basically one of the forgotten players taken off the board. So him going over to Indianapolis, Matty Ice finally getting his retribution for all these years of, just dwindling away on a team that absolutely doesn't even care to get out of their own way. So unfortunate for Atlanta, they lose him, but Indianapolis they have a chance. They have a chance at the Super Bowl, but they're going to the playoffs. They're absolutely going to the playoffs. Matt Ryan's going to have an insane year, and I'm overexcited to have Matt Ryan on my fantasy football team, because you're basically going to get him for the cost of nothing, and I think you're going to have an every week starter for the entire season. So all in on Matt Ryan this year. Absolutely all in on Matt Ryan here. I wish John was here in case he had to talk me off a ledge to everybody here and say you cannot tell the people to be all in on Matt Ryan. But in round 15, he can't say nothing. He can't say nothing. That's why I sent him home. He's actually in the stat dungeon, is what I call it. He doesn't actually do anything for a living. We just put him in that room and make him do stats and whatnot all day, and then he reports back on the show, and then we shove him back in, and he doesn't do anything else. So when I need to talk to him about Matt Ryan, I'll talk to him, we'll bring him out, we'll see what he's got to say about the stats. Moving on to one of probably the biggest names in the draft that everybody is overdrafting. Extremely, extremely high overdraft price on this player right here. I know me and John are in agreement on this because we were talking about it earlier. He's the one who actually brought it up to bring it on the show, and I didn't notice at first. I was just going around my drafts, doing my mock draft things, thinking that, people draft quarterbacks way too early. That's what happens. It happens all the time. I didn't realize that this is where ADP was for him, so everybody is drafting him at this spot. And that is quarterback, obviously, Josh Allen. The number one, probably going to finish at number one, but he is going at ADP 19, which is the second round. Now, listen, if you're new to the show, we don't draft QBs this early at all. It never ever I'll never have the appeal. Even on Mahomes' best year, the following year, we were not drafting quarterbacks. I understand where you're saying, okay, he's going to score the most points. That's why we want to grab him. That's the argument I hear most, is that he's going to score the most points. So obviously I need to grab him bright and early and get that. But the cliff of what you're talking about for point difference at quarterback in comparison to wide receiver, running back, the cliffs that you have from the first, second, and third round are astronomical for running backs and wide receivers, the positions that you need multiple of. And if you're in a 3 wide receiver league, then it's even more pressing that you don't look at quarterback that early, because if you do, you're taking a high gamble on one player and basically saying he has to do this in order for this back end to work, or else you're going to be shuffling a ton of pieces. So when you're in those first, second, third, fourth rounds, those are the foundation rounds. Those are the rounds where I'm building the structure for my team, where I can play with pieces later. I can grab the guys that I want later on. The difference between quarterbacks when you look at third, fourth, fifth, sixth points structure, it's not as large as you think in comparison to wide receivers and running backs. So the points that you're forfeiting on the back end by grabbing somebody like Josh Allen, it's huge. It's 30, 40, 50 points, which is 5, 6 games for some wide receivers that you really need. So running backs, maybe that's 2, 3 games for them, but those are points that you really need week in and week out. So as much as you look at that and say, okay, he's going to score the most points, those games might be exaggerated, those stat lines might be exaggerated, and most likely exaggerated by games that have 30, 40 point totals that you're not getting in 1 week. So if you're blowing out a team by 30 points in week 9, but you're losing by 6, 7, 8, 9 points every other week, there's where you just forfeited a couple weeks. And buying those weeks is critical, especially when you're going into the end of the season. So me personally, I never ever will draft a quarterback that high. As much as I love Josh Allen was he was the first person I ever wrote an article on about him being a breakout star this season before he was a breakout star. So I have the utmost admiration for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. He's going to do what you're paying for, but you're just paying way too much for him. So me personally, ADP 19, there's no way I'm in on Josh Allen. As much as I love Josh Allen, as much as I love the Bills, there's no way I can pay that price at that at round 2, pick 19. There's no way. It has to be wide receiver, running back, or if you want to go the running back 0 strategy, which you absolutely should not be doing, running back, wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, wide receiver. All of that is better than quarterback. I would rather you go running back 0 than draft Josh Allen in the second round. And I think when you see your team structure at the end, you'll see why. Anytime you're in a mock draft or anytime you see somebody draft a quarterback that early, look at their draft sheet. Look at their list. They're scrambling for position players later on, and they don't have anything confident like you do, where you were smart and you grabbed Matt Ryan. And now you're going to win a fantasy championship because you got Matt Ryan. All right, so moving on to another mid-tier player that I am pretty stoked about this year, and that is Derek Carr. Obviously, you got Davante Adams, but it's not just Davante Adams here. You have Josh McDaniels now, very seasoned, coming over from the Patriots, their long historic career. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, Josh McDaniels, when he was a head coach before, that was a long time ago. And I think that Josh McDaniels purposely took this job in particular. He could have stayed again. He purposely took this job in particular because of the team structure, because of everything that he had there, because of the weapons, because of what he was allowed to do if he was given the reins as the head coach on that team. So I think Josh McDaniels is going to do big things this year for Derek Carr and for that offense. For that reason, I am in on Derek Carr, especially at his ADP. Round 10, pick 111 is almost a steal because I really do think the problem with the Raiders overall is the defense. It's not Derek Carr. They're always going to play from behind, so that's great for Derek Carr, and they're always going to be just away from a win, which is great for Derek Carr to always be slinging the ball. Now you have Davante Adams, you got, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs is still catching a ton of passes out of the backfield. So I'm huge on Derek Carr being, somebody who can consistently put up those numbers that you really, really want week in and week out. So if you want numbers to improve, you give them Josh McDaniels and Davante Adams, and then you have Darren Waller come back. So I think Derek Carr is naturally just going to be the king of consistency this year with massive upside games with having somebody like Darren Waller and Devontae Adams. He's going to have those massive games where, he's blowing up and you didn't have to pay the massive draft price for him. Round 10, pick 111. Who's going around him right now? Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson, Russell Gage, Christian Kirk, Michael Carter, Sky Moore. So these are all backup players that you're filling, the back end of your team with. So as we were just talking about with Josh Allen and paying up way too high for him, if you're drafting all these running backs and wide receivers and really stacking your depth for the rest of the draft, and then you get to round 10 and you can scoop up somebody like Derek Carr who gives you a 19 to 17 point baseline with a 25, 30 point upside, that's huge for your team. It's a huge turnaround for your team to not ever have a quarterback or have to worry about a quarterback or a player who's giving you the 12, 10, 8 point lineup. So that's what you're really striving for, especially me when I'm looking at building a team and roster construction. I am solely looking for the kings of consistency, the ones who have the safest bet and the highest upside divided by king of consistency. So there's a certain equation that we will make. I need a t-shirt for the equation that we will make, but we will make an equation that will show out exactly how you find the perfect recipe. So Derek Carr, I'm in on that. For where he's being drafted, I like it. The ideal quarterback draw for me is being drafted late, so I'm all about Derek Carr. I think he has massive potential this year. He's probably going to finish within the top 10, but like I said, he's going to have, I'm almost certain he'll finish in the top 10, but he's going to have those massive upside games that could vault him into the top 7. Moving on to the last name of the night, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Everybody, if you're watching on TikTok and you got questions for me, hang out. We'll hang out for a little bit, drop some questions. Moving on to the last guy, Trey Lance, the San Francisco quarterback, who we've all been talking about all off season, because we're all kind of just ready for it already. You know what I mean? We're kind of tired of hearing the Jimmy G talk. I'm tired of it. If you're just going to trade him. Just do it. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Just do it so I can set my fantasy lineup, so I can see what I'm doing. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I just want to figure it out. Go to the Giants or whatever you're doing. Nobody cares. So, anyway, we just want Trey Lance. The problem is, where am I going to draft him? Now, fortunately for us, Trey Lance is going later on, but he's going in a mid-tier around Chase Claypool, Christian Kirk, Russell Gage, and then it drops down to Derek Carr. Now, just going off of what we were talking about right here, and just to throw it out real quick, between Derek Carr and Trey Lance, I want Trey Lance so bad on my fantasy football team. I want him to be the player that he can be. I want him to hyper-target George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and just get those plays while also running the ball and making things happen. I want that to happen. But I can't bet on it yet because of all this Jimmy G talk and what's going to happen. So as much as right now here on August 2nd, August 3rd, where we want to say buy on Trey Lance, I really don't think you can take that chance. So in the off chance that your draft is this weekend, which it should not be, if your draft is this weekend, reschedule it right now. Call everybody, wake them up, and tell them you need to reschedule your draft. Call out of work. We have to plan this. Anyway, so Trey Lance, being where he is and being with the situations that they have going on right now in San Francisco, you can't pay the price at that draft price when you're building a team for what's going to happen. And if you do slip on that banana peel, it's not a 2 to 3 week banana peel. It could be a full season banana peel where you are again waiting for Jimmy G to either get injured or get traded or whatever it may be. So the realm of outcomes, the spectrum of outcomes for what Trey Lance could be is so vast right now that for him to go at whatever his ADP is, 108 is round 9. For him to go in round 9 is way too risky because you're taking a chance at holding a ticking time bomb that blows up on you as soon as week 1 begins, and now you've blown a 9th round pick and you probably didn't grab another quarterback until later on, and you got something really not great for consistency. So Trey Lance is probably the biggest draft lottery there will be this year, because if you can if you can draft somebody like Trey Lance and then wait and draft somebody like Matt Ryan, and you have the luxury to do that in a draft, I think you should, because you're going to have absolute gold if Trey Lance hits. You can trade somebody like Matt Ryan to somebody in a package for consistency, and now you have an absolute bona fide quarterback one, because I do think that as soon as they take the reins off Trey Lance, he's going to be a fantasy phenom, and he's going to be kind of reminiscent of Patrick Mahomes when he first got in there, except he's going to rush the ball a lot more. He's going to get in the end zone a lot more. So a little bit of Mahomes mixed with Lamar. But I think Trey Lance, with the recipe they got going over in San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan is really all in on Trey Lance. So I'm excited to see it happen. When it inevitably does happen, I think Trey Lance needs to be on your team, and you want to make sure it happens. The only problem is 9th round is way too risky for the chance that you don't get to start him until week 7 or week 8. And by that time, you're crawling back in to get to the playoffs. But me personally, quarterback is a position I can always wait on, and quarterback is a very easy position to trade for when you're in season. You can value a wide receiver once you're in season much higher than a quarterback. And if you're stacked at depth, you can trade those pieces to get the quarterback that you want, or maybe the one that you didn't draft and you wanted to wait on. You can grab some pieces and say, hey, I have wide receivers you don't because you drafted that quarterback there. Now I can grab them. As soon as the draft ends, wherever you're drafting, and I want to say this week a couple times, as soon as your draft ends, your draft price that you paid does not matter. As soon as that last bell dings, I hear all the time, well, I paid this for him, I did this. It does not matter. It's whatever they're worth from that moment on, and whatever their perceived value is to the team you're trading them to. So we're going to have a lot of talks about trades this year. I'm going to help y'all make some good trades. I'm going to help y'all figure out how to make sure you get the guy that you need. But at the same time, you got to remember it's perceived value and what a team structure needs. You can't just value X for Y and then say that trade should happen. You got to be a salesman about it, man. You got to say, hey, look, I see you got some wide receivers over there. I like that Trey Lance you got, and I got some wide receivers I drafted in the 6th, 7th round because I was smart. And I listen to Fantasy Daily on the daily. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for joining me here on Fantasy Daily. Everybody on TikTok for hanging out with me. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Thank you so much. We will be back again tomorrow with the tight end drafter pass show. Running back, wide receiver already up. You just watched QB with me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe. Get plenty of rest. Drink plenty of water like I need to go do. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Take care and good night.